So I get asked all the time what my sliders are for Seahawks franchise, and I'm going to show you exactly what I have on right now. For these sliders, though, I will say I've always been someone that changes the sliders a lot based on the team I have. So if I'm rocking a team like the Giants, I want to make it where maybe the defensive tackling is a little lower because I want a guy like Saquon to absolutely break tackles. I don't care what the difficulty is, which obviously we're going to be playing on All-Madden. I want to break tackles, If I have a guy like Mahomes, maybe I'll up the QB accuracy if I'm seeing he's missing a lot of throws because, he's a good quarterback. But if I have a bad quarterback or a bad offensive line, I don't want those guys succeeding too much early on. As we know, if you leave everything kind of on base, every team kind of plays the same for the most part, so I will say that's something that probably needs to play a bit of a factor. So as your franchise goes on, maybe you want to start basing these more around 50 rather than, the different changes we're going to be showing here today. But of course, looking at the league settings, everything's going to be pretty standard here. You have All-Madden, simulation style, pretty much everything's, like I said, basic. I haven't tested having the CPU also able to trade. I don't feel like they would trade in general anyways, but I don't have this on because I just feel like they're going to trade away a lot of crazy players. We already see a bunch of insane names in free agency this year, and I do not want to see guys like Herbert traded off for like a second-round pick or something really stupid, so I just don't trust that. Salary cap obviously on, same with abilities, all these things. It really doesn't matter too much, but for staff talent, I have it on slowest because if you keep it on normal, you will easily have a maxed out coaching staff within like 2 seasons, and that probably shouldn't happen, especially when, you'll have this no matter how well you play. If you play really poorly, you're still going to have a pretty much maxed out staff. So I would definitely have this on at least slower, but I currently have it on slowest because I did play almost the full season with normal. So I'd probably put it on slower or slowest. Injuries are obviously on. Pre-existing, if you're just starting, obviously, if you want to put that on, you can, but I obviously started this franchise before the year started, so there really wasn't any injuries anyways. This is all on. Practice injury I turned off. I like the fact that there's practice injuries, but the problem is the game's a little too cute with it, and pretty much every practice you'll lose somebody to an injury, and in real life, sure, it happens a little bit, but it's not guaranteed to lose a starter every single practice, but that's kind of what happens in the game. I currently have the play call stuff off, play call cooldown and play call limit off, as I'm not somebody that, just thinks about the cheese plays or, drag routes and all that, but realistically, it doesn't matter unless you're in a user league, in my opinion, an online league with multiple users, because it's more about the audibles that you need to worry about for repeating rather than the play calls. It doesn't matter what play call you run, you can have a very, very repetitive franchise if you personally just run a lot of slants and drags, so I keep it off, but if I were to put it on, this is probably what I would rock personally, as you probably don't need to run. I probably would rock this, actually. This is what I would rock, especially in a user league. Offline, once again, it kind of matters what you want, but I would say this is fun. And then once again, this is more of a online thing. I would probably put this at like 50, 53 if I was in an online league, and then I would have the player movement probably unlimited, but I would have the overalls probably set to 80, and if somebody wants to, cut someone that's a little bit higher because they're older, then I would change it. Otherwise, you're going to have people potentially griefing. They want to leave the league, and they're being a little weasel about it. If you put on no restriction, they could just cut the whole damn team. But obviously, since this is an offline league, and a lot of you guys are probably going to be using offline leagues, it really doesn't matter. You could just turn it on off, unlimited, no restriction, all that stuff. The regression slider. I don't think this actually works this year still, so it really doesn't matter. Realistically, you probably should just max these 3, and, if the regression's stuck on, just max these 3. As you can see, we have it set on off, and it doesn't really matter too much, but, I think you will reach a limit in a league after a while, but with the regression thing on, or stuck to on, I don't know if this is going to really be a problem for you, even in an online league, because those regressions are very common. 10-minute quarters, I think, is fine. If you have the play clock, accelerated to 20, we usually run it 20 sometimes in Seahawks franchise, and we can still pass the ball quite a bit, and the game is still pretty long, so I think 10 is fine, and I'm pretty sure you want to have the play clock at least at 20 or higher remaining. Otherwise, I believe the AI will not audible, And you definitely want the AI to be able to audible, because then it'll have a little bit more of a realistic situation. As far as this, it's all up to you. Obviously, you can manually scout or not. If I'm in a rebuild, I usually have this set to auto and the weekly training set to auto. But as far as obviously using, I'm not going to do that. And then everything else is pretty much just set to off, other than fill roster, which actually I should probably turn that off too. And for XP sliders, this is once again another personal kind of preference type of thing. We have this on 137 for running back, and you guys obviously seen that Kenneth Walker has upgraded very quickly, but he probably should, as you know, he's on par for back-to-back 2,000 all-purpose yard seasons. The tight end at 143. The positions that are a little bit tougher to develop in the game are obviously the offensive linemen and defensive tackles. So if you're going to put anything higher than the rest, definitely O-line. Special teams wouldn't hurt, but it probably doesn't matter. Fullback wouldn't hurt, but once again, probably doesn't matter. And then, like I said, the defensive tackles. But as far as the sliders go for XP, I would maybe put these up 5 or 10 each if you want a little bit higher of an overall kind of experience. But for me, I don't want the players to be too good, especially if they haven't earned it. So this is what I am rocking with currently. This is the one that's probably more subject to change than the actual gameplay themselves, which once again is kind of all up to personal preference. This one doesn't really matter as much. But for the gameplay, this is what I have for All-Madden, which is maybe a little more challenging than most slider, recommendations that I've seen. Quarterback accuracy at 44. Our quarterbacks are pretty bad, and yet with the accuracy on this, if we have a clean pocket, we can hit basically every throw. Even when we're under pressure, we can still hit every throw. If you have it on 50, I kind of feel like even the worst of quarterbacks are going to look like some of the best. Pass blocking at 47. The problem in the game right now isn't that the pass blocking, sliders are bad or anything like that. It's just the game isn't engaging in players. Now, unless the slider does something completely different this year, there's nothing you can do about the game just not engaging with the defender. There's just going to be, if you block a tight end, the tackle is almost guaranteed to not help on the edge. He's just guaranteed to go inside and help the guard. If you block a tight end, there's a decent chance you're going to have 3 linemen blocking 1 defensive player, and even then, they're not going to do a great job at it. So, in general, speaking of blocking, I wouldn't block the tight end ever. The running back is probably useless to block as well, but at least they have a little bit more of a function. There's a chance that it'll work out with them, but pass blocking at 47, as I think with a bad line, we've still had quite a bit of time to throw when you compare it to real life. Now, that's once again a kind of a thing where, are you're trying to get a real life experience, because it doesn't really necessarily work like that for Madden, especially this year where routes aren't as crisp. In real life, even the worst route runner is sometimes going to maybe run a pretty sick route, whereas in-game, even the best of route runners kind of round their routes a little bit more than they do sharply cut them. 47 for catching, as it seems like they catch everything anyways. Run blocking, you guys seen the season we've had with Kenneth Walker and a kind of an iffy offensive line, yet, it's at 44, so you put it at 50, and we're probably putting up 2,000 rushing. Fumbles at 70 because of the tackle battle fumbles. Seems like every single tackle battle is an insta-fumble on 50. So I feel like you kind of have to just take the L this year and expect not a lot of fumbles to happen. I will say in previous Maddens anyways, the AI really doesn't hit stick you. The AI doesn't really force any natural fumbles regardless. So if you're trying to avoid the tackle battle fumbling issue, which is definitely prevalent in the game, I have it at 70. Pass defense, reaction time, and pass coverage. This is a slider that I honestly feel is just not a properly working slider in the game. It just seems like no matter what you do with this, the AI kind of just plays based on the difficulty, but I'm kind of liking 35 and 25. We have decent coverage, but we still give up a lot of plays. Once again, we've, especially the start of this franchise, we had a lot of success on defense in coverage, so I like where it is now, where it seems like even though our corners are actually kind of decent now, they still give up plays, but they're also still able to make crazy plays against some of the best players in the league, and once again, get burned by some of the worst players in the league, as it happens. No matter how good of a player you are, you're going to get beat quite a bit. There's a reason why it's an offense-driven league. Interceptions at 42, I don't think this really matters too much either. And then tackling at 48, which we still do a pretty good job, but we still get tackle broken. Obviously, in the real world, there is a lot of broken tackles. That is one of the toughest things for a defender, obviously, as you see guys getting destroyed all the time. Even some of the best defenders going against some of the worst of offensive players. It's just a lot easier to break someone's ankles than it is to take someone's ankles, which I guess is the same thing technically. I don't know. 70 quarterback accuracy. Once again, I don't think this is really a big issue. I think the accuracy is not a problem in the game. I think the decision-making by the AI is a problem. That's why I have it on 70, whereas, it's already tough enough for the game to decide where to go with the ball half the times. So I do want the ball to be pretty accurate in general. I will say this does lead to the AI being very precise, but they still have their bad decisions. So this slider, I honestly think you could do whatever the hell you want with it. I think this is something just like blocking. You can't really do a whole lot about making this a realistic situation. So I have it on 70 because I like the challenge. Pass blocking at 53, we still get a pretty good amount of rush despite the fact that we have a pretty bad D-line. Might change this one a little bit as the team gets better. Once again, that's what I think you should do with all gameplay sliders is based on how good your team is, you should react with the gameplay sliders. If you got, Nick Bosa and you're on 50 pass block sliders and dude never gets in the backfield, maybe drop the sliders a little bit. But right now we have, guys that are like mid 80 finesse, and they're doing a decent job. We're getting double-digit sacks for a couple of guys each season. I like where they are at now. Wide receiver catching, once again, I do think this is a pretty good slider. Maybe drop it to 54. Run block, I think the AI is pretty bad with their run lane decisions, so I like to have that at 53. So it's a little bit easier for the AI to run. Fumbling, this doesn't matter. Once again, it's just the gang tackles usually don't even go against the AI, so 54 is fine. 70 for pass block defense and coverage. I still feel like we have a lot of room to throw, but once again, we have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant. He's obviously an athletic freak, so this could change for you if you're trying to have a tougher, more realistic experience. If you have a really bad wide receiving unit, like maybe like the Packers or the Bears or something like that, and you're seeing that your guys are getting open a little too easily, maybe lower this a little bit. But, once again, even the worst of wide receiver units usually do get open because, once again, it's an offense-driven league. It's very hard to play defense, specifically corner, so that's fine. 27 interception, the AI still mosses the hell out of your guys, but at least it's a little bit better of a chance in 50-50s, and even if you put this at like 0, I think the AI is still going to intercept a wide open ball. So 27 I think is fine, and then tackling at 47 because I like to see some broken tackles, as we talked about. The real world tackles being broken are so common. As far as the special teams, the reason why I have punt accuracy on so high is because as a user, at 50, it doesn't matter. You're going to pretty much hit the perfect accuracy every time. But the AI, man, there is still a huge problem in the game where the AI will absolutely shank punts 24/7. Honestly, I don't even know if I would worry about the special team sliders. I would probably just sim every single punt that the AI has. I'm just going to be honest with you, because otherwise they're going to shank 30-yard punts like literally almost every single time. It's crazy. And then, this is kind of what I have there. Injuries at 23. We really don't see any crazy injuries. We have a couple of guys that miss a couple of weeks, but the league, very injury prone, so it kind of depends on, do you want realism or do you want fun? Do you want to use your guys you're trying to develop all season long, or do you want players that actually have a chance of getting injured? Once again, I don't think, especially quarterbacks, it's ever going to matter. Quarterbacks almost seem like they never get hurt in the game. Fatigue at 52, threshold at 47, offside at 57, false start at 51, holding at 53, 50 for face mask, 48 for defensive pass interference. This is a slider that actually affects how the AI will play. So if you have this on higher, I think it also affects the coverage. I think if you have this slider higher, the AIs are actually going to be a lot less, tight on their coverage because they're afraid of getting penalties. So 50 or under is what I would recommend there. Illegal block in the back, also something I would, it's not a super common penalty outside of special teams. And if you have this any higher, you're going to start seeing it in actual offense play. And then 42 for roughing the passer because the game still has pretty stupid logic where, the ball will be long gone and the guy will get hit. In real life, we see sometimes a boneheaded play where, the ball is gone and the guy's just there and he hits him. But I'm talking about like the ball will be gone and then your guy will kind of get a little too close to the quarterback as the receivers got the ball already, and he'll just hit him for some reason. They'll just like suction into it. So I have that on 42 because I hate roughing the passer penalties in the game. Way too common at 50 or above. and then roughing the kicker, running into the kicker, illegal contact is all on. In a user league, though, I will say I would probably turn these two off. I'm not even going to lie. And also, illegal contact almost never happens in the game, by the way. But I would turn these two off if I was in a user league. Those are the sliders I have as of right now. If I change these drastically, through the next couple of months while we're playing franchise, I'll let you guys know with maybe another video. But this is pretty much where I'm going to be sending you guys every time someone asks what the sliders are. And let me know what you guys think about them. And if there's any suggestions about things that I was maybe a little 50-50 on, because the sliders sometimes are a little confusing. I get sometimes people saying, like, you have the slider wrong for fumbling, dude. It's the lower it is, the less it fumbles. But this is actually a flipped slider. Once again, look at the right side of the screen. There is a massive black rectangle that they could put a description for in, and yet it's nowhere there. Anyways, that's pretty much going to be it. Like I said, let me know in the comment section below if there's some slider you think that I should change. You guys think that I have something wrong, and you would think it would be a better experience. What kind of success you've had with different sliders. Anyways, that's going to be it. We will have episode 31 of the Seahawks franchise a little bit later today. And as far as these sliders, that is where the accuracy of this is. The last couple of episodes into episode 31 will be these sliders up to date. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys come back for next video. But until next video, see ya!